Welcome to the SBDC's Business Blueprint, where we guide entrepreneurs through the building blocks of business success, one insight at a time. I'm your host, Jeffrey Beckles, and on today's episode, we will shine a very powerful light on the vital contributions entrepreneurs with disabilities make to the Bahamian economy and to the entrepreneurial ecosystem. The Small Business Development Center recently hosted an Entrepreneurs with Disabilities Initiative, which was designed to remove barriers and to build more inclusive entrepreneurial ecosystem. Creating an economy that works for everyone requires more than just good intentions. It requires partnerships, policy reform, and a national commitment to accessibility and inclusion. Joining us today to explore this further are Erin Brown, Disability and Inclusion Advocate and Paralympian, and Nalini Bethel, Chairman of the National Commission for Persons with Disabilities. Ladies, welcome to our program.
Thank you.
It is so easy to overlook the inclusion and the realities that there are persons actively involved with disabilities in our business development space. Your experience as an advocate over the years, Erin, has really propelled you to the top of this discussion. And so let's talk a little bit about how the interactions with the SBDC has helped to achieve that objective of awareness in the first instance, education, and then inclusion.
Yes. And so the SBDC initiative has been a really eye-awakening one that not only drives the access or inclusion for persons or entrepreneurs with disabilities, but it also provided us with what are some of the gaps, what are some of the things that are systematic or institutional or even attitudinal that are barriers that exist for entrepreneurs, disabled employers, disabled employees, because we also have disabled employers that exist. And for a lot of us, we do not self-identify as that. And so even when this initiative was launched, you sat there as a disabled employer and you said, should I or shouldn't I? Because we go so long underneath the radar. But what this had allowed us to do with the initiative was not only show representation in a very true way, but also implementation. From having disabled mentors, where all of these stakeholders or participants who registered for the program, they saw themselves.
Right.
Having weekly masterclasses where you can come one-on-one in person, or you can come online, or you can speak to your mentor any time of the day via digital, because we had Family Islanders. And so it really showed and it really embodied what access and inclusion is about, but from a very strategic way, a very innovative and sustainable way. And I dare to say that it showed that we as disabled entrepreneurs, we are economic drivers once given the access.
So there's a whole view of I can in regards to this. So as the head of the national committee that focuses on persons with disability, this obviously has been a giant step forward, or I would say a shot in the arm of excitement and opportunities. How has it impacted your commission and the work that is being done by your organization?
Well, we uphold the rights of persons with disabilities. We protect their rights. We also create equal opportunities. And this partnership that we have with the SBDC is really a very good one. It's exciting for those who are persons with disabilities wanting to start businesses, or those who want to expand their businesses. Many people who have already got businesses, they said, I wish I had this training prior to starting my business, right? And so I believe it's given us a great deal of hope. It's given us the opportunity, equal opportunity with those who do not have disabilities, to be able to expand and create businesses and contribute to the economy. The economic well-being of this country.
So there are people with disabilities who have already been actively involved in the business space. And we often know that not every disability is visible.
Yes.
Talk to us a little bit about the invisible disability that you and I cannot see, but they're actively participating, and how's that been impacting the whole economic landscape?
Yes, and so this is why I really enjoyed working with this program because I'm a disabled entrepreneur as well. I lead a disability-led consultancy business. And so it not only showed up authentically, but it wasn't scared to say, oops, we didn't really think about that. And okay, we need to do this, or let's enable that. And in that gray area were our neurodiverse stakeholders,
Right.
which who live with a non-apparent or invisible disability, which is not as clean cut because we're talking about sensory aversions. We're talking about being able to show up in a space that may be noisy, may have flashing lights, may have more complicated processes that you now have to navigate or you have to adapt, or you may need more reasonable accommodation, which is your right as a
Right.
disabled person. But I think what it did was also was very heavy on disability rights because a lot of our disabled community do not know their rights. A lot of us who acquired a disability, like myself from bone cancer, I lived a part of my life as a non-disabled person. And so when I acquired a disability from bone cancer, and then you telling me I can't do what?
I
It's like, I'm sorry, are
Yeah.
we talking to the same person? But yet you have those who are born with disabilities, whether it's a visible one or whether it's a non-apparent one, who learned from birth that, okay, this place might not be for you.
Right.
But we're changing that, actively changing that by ensuring that we're not only talking with them. SBDC Initiative spoke with disability-led organizations, spoke with the National Commission, spoke with disability entrepreneurs. Only way to do it is to ensure that they give their unique and equitable lived experience, feedback, knowledge, implementation resources, and trainings. And so I'm hoping that this was able to provide our neurodiverse, those ADHD, learning disabilities, things that persons really don't stand out for most persons, but it allows them to raise their head a little bit taller and don't be afraid to say, yes, I can with this support.
When we take a short break, we'll come back and talk about some of the unique challenges that persons with disabilities may have been experiencing and how the work with the SBDC is changing that landscape. We'll be back right after this message.
At BOB, we take pride in our business banking.
I chose Bank of the Bahamas because it was a Bahamian-owned bank. The bank has certainly supported our evolution through overdraft facilities, purchasing of equipment, facilitating of salary payments, and I really believe that Bank of the Bahamas is able to help in the development of the local economy. I would truly recommend the services at Bank of the Bahamas.
Welcome back to the SBDC's Business Blueprint. We're here with Erin Brown and Nalini Bethel discussing the role and recognition of entrepreneurs with disabilities and their contributions to the overall Bahamian economy. Before the break, we're talking about the excitement that the SBDC's program has brought and its impact on both of your organizations. Before we talk about the challenges that are unique to the persons with disabilities, how has been the feedback? Has it really been catching on in the community?
Absolutely. I think that you could actually, by the registration of persons with disabilities for the program itself, there were 67 persons who enrolled for this program, and they exceeded our expectations, because I think the SBDC had aimed for 50 and they got 67. And not only was it in New Providence, but across
Throughout the
the
country.
Bahamas,
Right.
right? So they were able to participate virtually on their platform.
Mhm.
So I think that this is was received very well in the community. It's given them a leg up,
Mhm.
a boost in their self-confidence, that they can make a difference, they can contribute, make viable contributions, be self-sufficient, which is very important. Nobody wants to keep on going to get benefits all the
Right.
time, right?
Right.
You want to be able to do things for yourself. So, and you want to be able to earn money for yourself.
True.
Okay, so whereas the employment market is not as receptive to a person with a disability, you can be self-sufficient by starting your own business. So that has really been one of the core achievements of the SBDC program.
I like that self-sufficiency. Erin, there are obviously barriers on both sides of the divide. What are some of the barriers or challenges that are unique to persons with disabilities? And how are we overcoming those through this partnership with the SBDC?
I feel because we don't have an inclusive entrepreneurial ecosystem in policy or practice as yet, this has given us a starting point. And to add to what Chair Bethel said, it's not that we can do it. We are doing it.
Right.
And so with those PSAs that the SBDC from the entrepreneurship program, where they were seeing themselves on national television, talking about their business, talking about their experience, that's a part of empowerment that you really can't pay dollars and cents for. Because when you are now seeing yourself, there are other persons who may not even know that you've been in that business for how long. You have that amount of expertise, and I passed you every day. It allowed us to be very authentic. And I say that word again, authenticity, because a lot of times as disabled persons, we mask. We want to look a certain way. We want to talk a certain way. Why? Because the human design is, if you present yourself a certain way, you have more access. But what we've allowed them to do is show up as an amputee, a wheelchair user, as a neurodiverse person, as a person who stutters, as a person who's shy. But showing up is one of those barriers. How do you collect that as data, right? And that's one of the barriers that continue to, I want to say, evade us, because we're trying to do it in applications, but yet we do not put do you live with a disability on an application, right? We try to collect that in spaces of funding, but yet we know just as simply as getting a savings account or a business account, or dare ask for a loan as a disabled entrepreneur or a disabled person, it's not happening.
So we still have some more room to evolve in that regard. You mentioned earlier the value from a community standpoint and the support. And in our opening, we talked about what's required to really build a robust ecosystem to be inclusive of persons with disabilities. It could be as simple as acknowledging the fact that that's a handicapped spot and I ought not to park there. Or the law requires me now to build a ramp for access to my business. So I must be mindful not just to throw some concrete together and make it look like a ramp, but to be sensitive to the fact that someone may come to my business with a disability, and it is my obligation to show the regard and respect for them by making this ramp really accessible. Little things like that create opportunities for us and awareness.
Well, actually, we have an inspectorate within the National Commission who actually go around and inspect whether or not businesses have provided for accessibility. And so they measure ramps to universal standards. There's a universal building codes that we've now adopted in the Bahamas. So now everybody who is building something is expected to adhere to those building codes. Unfortunately, we have a lot of old buildings, and which do not meet those specs. But you know, we do inspect, we do make recommendations, we give them a time to correct whatever they need to correct. Ramps are built sometimes too steep. Sometimes ramps are built with material that may become slippery when it rains. There's no railings. Those kinds of things have to be adhered to now.
So
in
when we
Bahamas.
talk about what the work that the SBDC is doing, we're providing the information, we're providing the support for persons with disabilities as entrepreneurs. At the same time, we also need to have better informed policies that govern this whole landscape, because on one hand, it may be nice that we're providing this through the SBDC, but then there are other barriers. When we come back from this break, we'll talk a little bit about the necessity of reasonable, practical policy reform with regard to persons with disabilities. When we take our break, we'll be right back and we'll have our mentorship minute with Ariel Pinder. Please stay with us.
Tiny Tots was birthed about a year after I gave birth to my daughter. I was looking for better alternatives to feed her. Organic was on top of my list, and the options were very few here and limited. So I started with deliveries and online orders, and it just went from there. I'm passionate about the business because I'm passionate about health. Health for me is something close to home, because I have a lot of family members who oftentimes, before the age of 50, are diagnosed with some sort of non-communicable disease. I realized that it starts from young. Automatically, people assume that organic is expensive, and organic isn't necessarily expensive, and that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to bring a product that was readily available for persons from all walks of life. I wanted something that all socioeconomic classes could have access to and be able to feed their children with healthier options. So Tiny Tots is all about organic. One of my major milestones that I'm proud of is the fact that I'm able to scale the way that I envisioned from the very onset. SBDC helped me with that tremendously with the loan and the grant funding that I got. From the onset, they were very helpful. They made sure that I had everything that I need to run a proper business, making sure that the business was not only profitable, but also sustainable. And I figured that if we can get a nation of people to start eating better from their younger, we don't have to try and force it into their diets as they get older, or even worse, when they find out that they're sick.
Are you ready to take the next step in growing your business? Check your eligibility for our guaranteed loan program at sbdcbahamas.com/GLP or call 461-7232 to learn more about how the SBDC can support your business.
We have to be mindful that as much as we want touristic development, what impacts the fisheries? Over-coastal development, destruction of mangroves, overzealousness of the industry. We have a new movement called do-it-yourself fishing. That is anglers who come to the Bahamas, they don't engage in hiring a guide. Because of this approach, you are going to have people who are going to exhaust the resources.
This is an industry that's preserved. It should be for Bahamian guides only. We have the DIYs coming in here, and they're destroying our flats.
We try not to overfish certain areas, so we'll fish a certain area and we'll back off for a while because we don't want the fish to feel too much pressure.
It's not just using the buzzwords of the environment and the ecology. The tourists can be educated that the more you support local ownership, people are doing it obviously the right way, the more the economic circulation in the communities.
I think the most critical thing is accountability, and that accountability by way of legislation, both the Act and regulations to govern fly fishing in the Commonwealth of the Bahamas.
I look at conservation efforts and the regulation that I've seen to protect the industry that's in the developed world. All of those jurisdictions have implemented strong regulation to protect their fisheries. We are way behind, but we do have a movement and a consciousness. We know where we need to be. Those are our resources, and we have to make an exerted effort to protect it because that's the only gift that we have been given. And if we don't protect that, then we lose everything.
Building the lodge, I understood clearly the mission to continue what my father started. From this lodge, it has served as the headquarters. We finally got legislation passed in 2016, and it legitimized the guiding profession. We pushed to get the program established into BAMSI in the training of the next generation of guides, but it extends way beyond that.
We need more Bahamians in the industry who are doing the research to provide the information to the industry, that is to fishermen and to everybody who benefits from the resources.
We don't know the resources in this country. We grew up just hearing about sun, sound, and sea.
It is going to be through education and awareness, whether it's within our schools, whether it's in our communities, to conserve the environment, that is going to sustain the fly fishing industry.
Well, the future of fly fishing in the company, I think fly fishing is a very, very unique spot. I think it's going to get better because the guides are now being all certified. They're all getting proper knowledge of handling and how to run the whole system.
If you're a youngster and you want to get into this, it's a job like any other job. You got to live it. You got to love it.
Young entrepreneurs coming in, you want that kind of interest. You want that kind of drive and desire. You want to carry that. You want to become the product.
Jeffrey. Hi everyone, I'm Ariel Pinder, your host for the Mentorship Minute. Today, we're shifting the spotlight to the family islands. While the challenges may look different from island to island, one thing remains the same: the impact. From Abaco to Miguana, we're seeing powerful success stories emerge through SBDC programs. Let's take a look at how the SBDC is helping family island entrepreneurs build businesses and create jobs, one initiative at a time.
Fidelity, we're good for you. We know how important collecting your money can be to the success of your business. Start your relationship with Fidelity today so that we can show you the many options available to you with our merchant services. From click and pay options online to merchant terminals and e-commerce options. We're here to help your business succeed. For more details, speak to one of our business development officers at 356-7764 in Nassau or 352-6676 in Freeport. Visit our website at fidelitygroup.com or visit any of our branches.
Welcome back, and thank you for that Mentorship Minute, Ariel. As we've heard today, accessibility is not charity. It's a right, and it's a smart investment in terms of national development. Supporting entrepreneurs with disabilities strengthens our economy, our overall community, and provides a jumpstart moment for many who would otherwise be unrecognized in our community. Policy reforms and protections. As I said earlier, it is one thing that the SBDC is providing these opportunities for training and exposure and grant funding and all the incubator networking that has to be done. It's another to have an ecosystem of legislative support that supports this so that the one plank is attached to the next plank, so that when persons with disabilities access the work of the SBDC, there is a continuum. What are some of those reforms? What are some of those legislative protections that are necessary, that are urgent for us to be paying attention to at this time?
I feel from our current status of legislative reforms or things that are currently here, it is time to fully enforce them.
Okay.
We have a lot of principles. We haven't evolved from just principles into practice, right? And I love the fact that you said it's not charity. Right. There are different models of disability, and charity is one of them. Charity and rehabilitation is one of those, or the medical model is one that we're all familiar with, where we want to fix and cure and prevent, right? And then we're saying, I want to give you the fish rather than teach you how to fish. So us moving from the charity to the investment model will allow us and ensure that we have a sustainable economic, entrepreneurial, financial, innovative, robust system, which ensures all of us are a part of it. Now, we have signed on to many ratifications. We have signed on even to the International Labor organization of Convention 159 that speaks specifically to decent work for persons with disabilities. And so it's not that we don't have the knowledge. I understand that there are processes that needs to happen in order for us to implement, but are we truly taking those and engaging them and not engaging it and leaving it in a drawer, on a desk, on a shelf? The Bahamian persona, the Bahamian experience, we are no more than resilient. We are doers, right? And that include our disabled persons. We need to move from being a passive recipient, right? We need to be more of in the action, in the implementation, so that policies can change, because it won't change if we don't understand the unique.
So this word inclusion is not as complicated as we like to make it, because most people, when someone uses the term inclusion, their minds go everywhere else, right? But the fact of the matter is, what you just represented is the essence of inclusion. How do we include real people in real terms? Chair, reforms, necessary protections, what are some of those areas that we need to focus on now so that the community of the disabled have full access to these programs and can be successful?
Well, at a legislative level, we have the Persons with Disabilities Equal Opportunities Act of 2014. Now, this gives equal opportunity rights. So we did move from the medical model or the charitable model to a rights-based model. And so it is a right to have equal opportunity, whether it's in employment, education, running a business. Now, in the Act itself, there's something that talks about you cannot discriminate against a person with a disability if they want to open a bank account or if they want to access a business loan. You might have a person with a disability who meets all the requirements for the business loan, but that business loan manager rejects that loan for that person because he doesn't believe really that he will succeed because of his disability. That is actually a violation of that person's right. So while you can, assess the person for their business viability, it really is, you cannot consider in your mind that the disability itself. And so I'm really certain that we need to put policy in place for that. The legislation already exists. It's just an individual policy of any institution.
Right. So going back to what you said earlier, we've signed on, we've written many pieces of legislation. It's a matter of implementation and enforcement, and so that people will learn, and so we appreciate that. And so one other aspect is something that you mentioned earlier, right? We talk about integration. Sometimes we forget that it's the power of the mind, not the leg or not the arm or not the eye, right? It's the power of the mind. And some of the greatest inventions have come from people who would otherwise have been described as persons with disability. So it's important for us as a community to do that. As we wrap up our time together, ladies, the SBDC has really become a pace setter in this space. What do you see next, and how do you see this partnership growing, being strengthened with the SBDC?
Well, we believe that in the National Commission, there will be more persons with disabilities coming forward. Having seen the success of this particular initial program, I believe that there are plans to do another one that would engage other persons with disabilities. Also, I want to mention the fact that youth with disabilities were also included through the Ministry of Youth. And we have one right in our office, a young man in a wheelchair who suffered injury, was not born with a disability, but is now a person with a disability. And so, he is so looking forward to growing and growing and starting his own business. He has some great ideas. So I would encourage lots of people, lots of persons with disabilities in our community to come out and participate whenever SBDC starts another one.
Excellent. Final thoughts, 30 seconds.
Okay, so next steps. It is time to show up.
Yes.
It is absolutely time to show up. For too long, we have sat in spaces and say, oh, maybe it's not for me. Find out in doing. Showing up authentically.
Excellent.
Because these spaces exist, but they will not continue if we do not show up
and fill it
with our voices.
Ladies, thank you very much, Madam Chair. Erin, as always, it's a pleasure to have you both. This has been a very meaningful and insightful conversation that highlighted both the challenges and the incredible potential for Bahamian entrepreneurs with disabilities. We also recognize the crucial role of these initiatives by the SBDC, and we look forward to them showing up and participating. So thank you for joining us. This has been an incredible discussion with us on the business blueprint. And until next time, we look forward to you turning your business insights into tomorrow's success. We'll see you soon.